Hello, I am Fernanda Paiva, Hitchhiking Stars. Welcome to my channel. And today is transits to your natal chart Mondays. So I haven't come up with a more interesting name yet, but you may have noticed that every Monday I've been posting about certain transits based on your ascendant to see what to place it basically in which house and how you can work with that, so you can tailor in to your personal life a little bit more. So today we're going to continue with that because it's Monday and we have Jupiter moving to Taurus tomorrow. So I just thought that would be great for you to know about where that Jupiter is in your chart and what does that mean for you as well. How can you work with that energy in the best way for your best growth? Again, we're talking about constructive astrology in this channel. So if you're looking for some kind of fear mongering or for some kind of confirmation of why everything goes wrong in your life every time, well, then that's not the channel for you. We're talking about the best and how we can express those energies in our lives in a constructive way, in a way that really helps us to create the lives that we want to live. So I think I'm a quite Saturnian person in a way. Like, I really believe that we need to take responsibility for our lives and we need to take responsibility for our dreams. Here is Saturn in Pisces there for you. So as usual, what we're going to talk about in this video is a little bit on Jupiter first. So we're going to talk about Jupiter and some of the details of it. I also did a little bit of a mind map with some words for Jupiter, some keywords, because all of these words are going to be relevant in these transit in whatever house that is being activated in your chart. Again, with a reminder that you need to take all of this with a pinch of salt, because depending on what degree your ascendant is, so if your ascendant is at 20 degrees Aries, then Jupiter will be in a different place than if you have an ascendant at 0 degrees Aries. So when I say ascendant in Aries, please find out what degree you have and settle your heart into a house system as well, because the house system will also matter. So if you use whole signs, which is very popular nowadays, then you know that everything will start at 0 degrees. So I'm not advocating for whole signs or anything. I mean, I believe that we all have the optimum house system for ourselves based on how we choose, based on how we feel as well. So I usually work with Koch. And the one I'm going to be showing to you today will be equal houses, just because it looks a little bit prettier. When I'm a moon in Libra, it needs to look pretty. And just because it looks prettier as I'm showing the Jupiter transit for you. So it's just a matter of making things simple. So this is the house system I'm gonna be using today. So we're gonna talk about it. Again, you can see me looking there. It's mainly because I've got my mind map here, and just so I keep like nice and direct, my video as well for you, so you can make the most of it. So we have some keywords on Jupiter, and then we're gonna look into the Jupiter, into the chart, into the houses, and what this can mean as well. Probably talk a little bit about Jupiter and Taurus before we do that. It will be very similar to the Saturn video I did. So I've done a Saturn in Pisces video last week. So if you're curious about knowing how Saturn is activating your chart, just go and check it out. And I'm going to do something very similar today. Now, just before I move on to the content of the video as well, I've had some people talking about me getting a mic because maybe the audio isn't the best. So I have bought a mic. And I mean, it was something I really wanted to do anyways, and I think that just gave me the push I needed to really invest in this, because I do really enjoy doing these videos and I really enjoy sharing information. I feel the communication is a big part of my path and teaching as well. So I will be having a mic soon enough, as soon as it gets delivered, and the audio will be much better. Okay, cool. So with all of that said, let's talk about Jupiter, and I will have timestamps as well in the description. So if you want to just go ahead and have a look at what Jupiter is in your chart, and if you haven't got time to watch the whole video, don't worry, timestamps will be there so you can do that yourself. So Jupiter orbs the sun for in about 11.86 years. So we're talking about almost 12 years here. So it takes around 12 years for Jupiter to go around the zodiac. So what that means as well, knowing that we have 12 signs, is that Jupiter will be about a year in each sign, right? So we had Jupiter in Aries for about a year, and we're going to have Jupiter in Taurus for about a year as well. Another interesting thing about Jupiter, and I love to mention this when I'm talking about the planets, because then we let go a little bit of this vision that we have, this apocalyptical vision that we have when a planet is going retrograde, you know. So whenever Mercury goes retrograde, we have this like, everything's gonna go wrong, and my messages will go wrong, my gadgets will break, and blah blah blah. You know, hell on earth is unleashed. So every planet has its own cycle of retrogradation, which is like an optical illusion. So from our perspective, it looks like the planet is going backwards, it's moving retrograde, it's going back on itself. So every planet will have its own cycle, which will happen yearly. Okay, so Mercury goes retrograde 4 times a year for about 3 weeks. So there's nothing unusual about it. There's nothing, oh my God, about it, but it's just a part of a cycle. So if you think about astrology as cycles within cycles within cycles, so all of these cycles have its own timings, and it has its own timings of retrogradation as well, which means is a perfect period for you to revisit the themes connected with that planet. So we want to relook, we want to reassess, we want to rethink, we want to regather and replan and be like, is this the most effective way? Am I actually accomplishing the things that I set myself out to do? Or am I happy in this area of my life? You know, this is what the retrogrades are actually offering you as a gift. Okay, so think it in that way. I think it's a little bit similar when we use menstruating beings, basically, when we use our cycles consciously. So we know that when we are about to get our periods, we're not at our optimum in terms of energy, we're feeling a bit tired, but it's a great time to rest, because when we reach 2 weeks later, we're going to have a lot more energy to work with. So once you realize that and you start working with that rather than resenting it, then you can make the most of it. And I feel it's the same with the retrogrades. So all of that to say, Jupiter goes retrograde once a year for 4 months. So we got 4 months of Jupiter going retrograde. Okay, and this is going to happen, and I'll be talking about when it happens, when we cross that bridge. It's not about to happen, but just so you know that there will be 4 months of that Jupiter going retrograde, and then we can rethink all of the things connected with Jupiter and all of the things that I'm talking about in terms of the house and your ascendant as well later on. All right, cool. So let's move on to the mind map and the words that I have. Now, interestingly, when I did the video last week about Saturn, there was a lot more to talk about. And I feel because Saturn is heavier, is a longer cycle, and it represents also something of a more serious nature in terms of our lives, in terms of maturation, growing older, etc. So there's something it required more structure to talk about Saturn. And I think it's so interesting whenever I'm teaching about the planets, the class itself has a kind of a characteristic of that planet as well, okay? So Jupiter kind of took, the energy of Jupiter is being taken on board in how I prepared this video as well, because it's a lot freer. And, the whole mind map, the cluster of words kind of does seem to resonate a little bit with Jupiter as well for me, in my view. So some of the themes that will be activated in your chart is specifically by the house, specifically by how it activates to your personal plans as well. You see, the deeper we go in terms of the personal elements of your chart and who you are and how you work with that chart, then the clearer we're going to be about what are the opportunities that these transit is offering you, and how you can take that as well according to your life story, according to the life that you're trying to create here, right? Or that you're trying to expand. There you go, like a Jupiterian word for you. So expansion is definitely a key word for Jupiter. Is the largest planet in the solar system, so it is kind of represented symbolically by that large sort of size. Instead of being large as anything, so in large is any principle that touches as well in your chart. So expansion, increasing, wealth is another one. And with wealth, we also have abundance, and generosity is another one. That's a theme that can be connected with Jupiter as well. And optimism. So whatever Jupiter is in the chart, that can be optimism regarding that area of our lives. Now, again, you got to take all of these with a pinch of salt, because if you're having Pluto conjunction your ascendant, you might not be the most optimistic person in the world right now. So there are certain transits that will kind of be heavier on you than Jupiter. And you can calculate that by how long that transit takes. And because Pluto is the furthest planet in the solar system, it takes a lot longer. It can go 5 years, depending on the position of the planets in your chart, even longer than that, if you have a stellium and a lot of planets in the same sign. But you can go up to 5 years for a transit in a Pluto transit, which will be a lot stronger and a lot deeper than a 1 year Jupiter crossing your first house. Okay, so you need to take that into consideration as well when you're like thinking about all of this, when you're brainstorming and you're trying to find the opportunities there. But there's definitely the sense of optimism connected to that house and the place and the planet that's being activated as well, or abundance as well. With that, we can also have excess and overdoing things. So you might overeat, you might overdrink, you might overparty. Yeah, you meet a lot of people, you might indulge yourself. I think overindulgence is a big one, especially with Jupiter in Taurus, because Taurus connects with indulgence as well. So that one could be a problem there with that Jupiter and Taurus potentially. Growth is another one connected with the sense of expansion, and travel could be one as well. So if you're having Jupiter on your Sun, Jupiter on your Mercury, I think I've mentioned in the last video I did that I did do a hitchhiking trip when Jupiter was right on my Sun. So it was conjunction my Sun, and I went on a big long trip that was like 6 months. I went 3 months hitchhiking, 3 months in Thailand, and so it was a great kind of omen. So when there's a strong transit of Jupiter like this, is a great omen for you to go traveling, to go somewhere, to go abroad, if that's what you wish. Yeah, don't make that happen just because I'm saying it either. I mean, I don't think you would, but so travel and higher education as well. So if you've been thinking about doing a post-graduation, or something that you're interested in but you weren't so sure, well, if Jupiter is coming to conjoin your Mercury, that's a great time to do it. I think I did my master's degree with a lot of planets crossing my third house, which is a mercurial house, but Jupiter was there as well, and there was a lot of writing during my course, and I feel that there was a lot of expansion there. Now, I got my new flat when Jupiter crossed my IC, so the sense of having a home and increasing the home situation or expanding the home situation, that happened as well, which is quite uncanny. And again, I didn't plan for that. I didn't look at my calendar and say, okay, Jupiter is going to be on my IC, I'm going to do this. It sort of happened that way. Okay, so opportunity is a big one, and I love to think about Jupiter transits in terms of opportunities. If you take the opportunity to do something can come to fruition. If you don't, then nothing necessarily will come out of it. Okay, so there isn't really any guarantee that it will happen. You might ignore it. Someone might be ringing the bell and you're too lazy to go open the door, or you're having a shower and you can't be bothered, and you're just not gonna take that on board. So I like to see Jupiter transits as opportunities, and it really depends on how we take them. So it's really nice to know where Jupiter is in your chart and to know what planets Jupiter is transiting in your chart, because then you can have a more concrete, not concrete, because I don't like to do concrete astrology, but you can have a clearer idea of what the potentials are. And again, that's constructive astrology right there for you. What are the potentials that really weave into your life well? Yeah. So Jupiter in the second house, trine your Sun in the 10th, and you've been trying to launch something, well, that's a great time for you to do it. But if it's something else, if you've been wanting a promotion and you've been waiting for something to happen in your job, you don't want to launch anything new, well, then that's what's going to be about for you personally. Okay. So astrology requires a lot of creative work. when we try to pin down things too specifically, we sort of miss out on the possibilities that the planets are actually reflecting. Yeah. So opportunity, that's going to be one that I'm going to be repeating again and again throughout the video. Okay. So with the sense of opportunity as well, I think that's a great one. Jupiter has a lot to do with that feeling of being in the right place at the right time. Yeah. Whereas Saturn, and I can think about planets as opportunities, all of them. Yeah. Whereas like a Pluto transit is an opportunity to purge and to become more honest about who you are and to have a more honest role in the world and to detox from a lot of the old patterns and the old traumas and the, the things that are really holding you back. Clear the decks, make space in your psyche. Saturn brings an opportunity for you to become more sturdy as an individual, yeah, to have like more structure in your life, to have a clear role as an authority. Well, Jupiter will bring the opportunity by being in the right place at the right time. Something is around you and you can make the most of it by knowing and playing with it, right? Abundance, I mentioned it already. Faith is a big one for Jupiter as well. Jupiter is the planet of faith and belief. Whatever Jupiter is in our natal charts, we sort of have faith in that house somehow. We believe that things will go right. Whereas the house where Saturn is in our charts, we really fear that house and we sort of feel that we don't know and we don't have the skills to do the things connected to that sign and that house. Whereas Jupiter by sign and house in our natal charts relates to what we feel we can do it. It will be fine. Things will work out fine. It's kind of that feeling. So it brings a sense of confidence. And with that as well, a sense of joy and joviality, which is a word very much connected to Jupiter as well. So joy, joviality, being optimistic and, and alive in that sense. Prosperity is another word that connects with abundance, with wealth, with generosity as well, because if you don't have, you can't be generous. You're like still in a survival, the Maslow pyramid, when we're really in survival mode, we can't really work on all the other layers as a human being. So by having this abundance, we can then also be generous and have a sense of prosperity. Yeah. Protection, that's an interesting one as well. And I read in connection to the mythology of Zeus and how Cronus, so Zeus was the son of Saturn, Cronus, and Cronus was swallowing all his childs or its children because it was, fearing being overthrown, losing its power like it did to its father, Uranus. Yeah. So Zeus was the only child that he didn't swallow, or was the first child, was the first or the only child that he didn't swallow because the mom protected it and hid him somewhere else and gave a stone wrapped in, something to Cronus to swallow. So there is a resonance of protection there. And Jupiter protects you as well. Whatever Jupiter is, there is a sense of protection. And I have to say, my hitchhiking trip was fairly safe. I didn't really encounter many weirdos. There was one, a couple, but not many. It was a lot of like really good people that picked me up and my friend as well. So protection is one. And again, I'm not guaranteeing here that you're going to be protected. So please don't take that as as an extreme meaning here. We're not black and white here, okay? Although I'm having a black and white top, we're not black and white. We're, nuanced. Yeah. Everything that I'm talking about is nuanced, and astrology needs to be nuanced. Learning is connected with Jupiter, which goes together with the sense of expansion, right? We learn something, we expand our minds. So when we travel, we expand our vision as well by being in different places, by living abroad. Well, with learning something new, we also expand. We also take a journey, but with our minds, with our world view, with our perspective of what the world is about, which brings another bit of it, which is meaning. Jupiter is about meaning and how we make meaning. So whatever Jupiter is traveling in your chart, we'll be talking about meaning. What sort of meaning do you have? What is the meaning of that area in your life? So you have a kind of an opportunity to think about the meanings that you attribute to the area of that life, to that area of life that the houses will be representing as well. So meaning is a very important one. So we got belief as well. We've got meaning, growth, which I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it as well. Wisdom is another one, which very much connected with Jupiter as well. The sense of wisdom, philosophy as well. Luck, which is obviously connected with the sense of opportunity and being the right place at the right time as well. Space and freedom. So this could be something, and because Uranus is in Taurus as well, next year Jupiter will come in conjoin Uranus in Taurus. Now that's a big boon of like freedom and need for space as well, because both planets kind of represent that in different levels. And so keep an eye on the area of your life that's got Taurus, because it's still a real hot spot, and Jupiter is just bringing more log to the fire. So freedom and space is another one. So those areas of our lives is where we can think about having more freedom. How can we have more freedom? According to what we believe in, according to something that's meaningful to us as well. And purpose. Purpose is a big one as well. Purpose is very much connected with Jupiter. And excesses, I mentioned it already, which is the shadow of Jupiter. Excess, overdoing, exaggerating. Beware of that and careful with that. And the last thing I wanted to mention, which is also connected with the mythology of it, is Zeus being extremely fertile, right? As a mythological figure, he just impregnates every figure that he fancies, pretty much. So this idea of being fertile is also connected with where Jupiter is in our charts. So whatever Jupiter is in your chart will be representing where you are most fertile as well, where there's most potential for planting seeds that will grow, right? And so I think that transition Jupiter in the house will also be representing that there is a sense of fertility in that house, so you can really grow something there. All right, cool. So this is all, those are all the words that I have here. Again, I'm not saying I said everything and that's it. I'm pretty sure there's more, and there are more themes that we can connect with Jupiter as well. But those are the ones that I had written down here on my mind map about Jupiter. So I feel that we're ready to move on to the second bit of this video. And in order to do that, I am going to share my screen. Now, mind you, a little bit, I am a bit allergic, so I've got strange, I think I'm getting over my cat allergy, which is amazing because I've been looking after cats and I love cats. And I know that I completely look like a cat person. And I would love to have a cat of my own. But I have allergies and it's so challenging. But since I've been looking after them, it seems to be getting better. Does any one of you have allergies or cat allergies that you actually got over? Or is it still really difficult for you? How is that? Let me know. I'll be very interested in knowing that. Okay, so again, and I'm gonna write this on the timestamps as well, because sometimes it gets a little complicated with the degrees of the ascendant and where exactly Jupiter is gonna be. But if you are, sort of the very beginning of Aries, you might have Jupiter already beginning to move to the second house. But I really want to talk about the mid to the late degrees of Aries, and then we have the early degrees of Taurus as well there for the ascendant, and that's when Jupiter is transiting the first house. Okay, so a lot of Aries risings will be having Jupiter in the first house, and the Taurus rising people will start to get Jupiter entering your first house slowly, depending on how many degrees of Taurus is on your ascendant. So Jupiter in the first house, Jupiter crossing the ascendant. I mean, I'll talk about the ascendant more in the next one when we get into the Taurus rising. But Jupiter crossing the first house definitely has that sense of a personal expansion of some kind. You might be feeling a bit like, all the things that I was talking about, the sense of expansion and growth, restlessness. You might be feeling a bit restless and feel that you need to be going somewhere, that you need to be bringing that sense of expansion in your life is coming from within, right? Whenever there's a planet transition your first, it's something that's connected to your sense of who you are. So you end up embracing some of the characteristics of that planet for a while. I love to think about transits as well. It's almost like we put on the sunglasses, the glasses of that planet or that planetary configuration or what that planet stands for, and we kind of embrace that into who we are for a little while when it's in the first house. Now, if it's a strong transit to your personal planet, you definitely have, you become a little bit more like that planet. I feel a little bit more Saturnian now that Saturn is opposing my sun. So I feel more sluggish. I feel it's slower. I feel, but it's temporary because I wasn't born with that. It's something that's happening now. So I think to a certain extent it's the same with the planets through the houses. So Jupiter in the first is almost like you're embracing that Jupiterian need for something else. The grass is greener on the other side in yourself. It could be a great time for a personal development thing and really becoming aware of like who you are and what your core values are in terms of your identity, in terms of how you present yourself as well. That's the first house for you. And Jupiter in Taurus in particular will talk a lot about values and expanding your sense of values as well. And I think that's a great, it's like Jupiter coming to the rescue, because I feel North Node being in Taurus, Uranus being in Taurus, there's a lot of stuff that's pointing out to that lesson collectively. And I think Jupiter is just emphasizing that further. So again, I'm going to refer to my North Node in Taurus video because there is a lot of really deep information about Taurus and about the best of Taurus and how to embrace that element in your life. So you can watch that video as well and then make that sort of connection with everything that I'm talking about Jupiter here as well, because they're both valid, because Jupiter is in Taurus. So that's it. The first house definitely will have that sense more connected to who you are. You might be more attractive to people as well, more gregarious, maybe, feeling a little bit more gregarious, feeling a little bit more, a little friendlier than usual, potentially. A little bit more sociable than usual as well, without Jupiter in the first. Yeah. So that's a possibility there. Now, if I move, do I have hours? I have hours. So if I move to Taurus, unless your Taurus is at 0 degrees, which will be that Jupiter around the ascendant, but Jupiter is in the 12th house. Yeah. Jupiter will be there in the 12th. So if I keep moving, look, it went even further there. So 29 degrees, Taurus rising there. But what's interesting to think about the Taurus rising, I mean, it is in the 12th, but it's also coming to your ascendant. And I think this is very relevant. When a planet crosses the threshold of your ascendant, your midheaven, your descendant, your IC, something really powerful of the qualities of that planet really manifest in your life. And on the ascendant, it will be very acute in terms of the need for space, the need for freedom, the need for purpose, for meaning. All of that will be very strongly felt by you when that Jupiter crosses your ascendant in Taurus, okay? So beware of that. That's very important. And that's an opportunity right there, okay? That's an opportunity for you to expand somewhere in your life. And it'll be happening at different times, depending on the degree of your ascendant. But let's say it's mid, to late degrees of Taurus, then we have Jupiter in the 12th. Now, again, Jupiter in the 12th house is a Jupiterian house as well, because traditionally Jupiter was the ruler of Pisces, and Pisces is the, sign connected with the 12th house. So Jupiter in the 12 is kind of, you know, comfortable in that house from that perspective. And so it does have something to do with your spiritual practice or with your unconscious there as well. Oh, one thing that comes to my mind here, which would be wonderful, is working on your money mindset. But the unconscious blockages, yeah, whereas the Jupiter in the second could be more conscious money mindset work. But I feel that the water houses will be more on the unconscious, yeah. So the 12th house there, you could definitely set some very powerful intentions there in terms of abundance in your life, and especially wealth, right? I mean, Taurus will be talking about values, what we value, but it will also be talking about self-worth. How do we value ourselves? You know, the way that Taurians appreciate comfort is a way of valuing themselves. I'm not going to sit in this chair. It's not comfortable enough for me, you know? So that could also be connected there with the 12, you know, changing some patterns that are there sitting in the unconscious. It could be charitable work as well, but work behind the scenes. That's 12th house, behind the scenes. It could also be creative work, but the sort of that you're channeling rather than 5th house. That's like more authorship, you know, is the Leo house. The 12th house is more about transcendence. And so Jupiter there can be talking about transcendence of some kind. And one way I see the 12 very much as well is the house of the different lineages of your family, you know, way back. So we can really work with those old lineages when we have transits to the 12. It's hard because it's invisible, but we can make it visible somehow through our dreams, through our dream imagery, through, you know, creative writing or like automatic writing, through, you know, really trying to get into your unconscious somehow. I think it can make the invisible visible through family constellation. That's a brilliant one. So if there's stuff there in your 12 that you need to, you know, have a look closer, and you having that Jupiter transiting your 12, family constellation is a great one as well. It makes all of these lineages, you know, there's different generational traumas or generational patterns or generational beliefs visible. So you can know where you need to step out from. So there's a sense of opportunity there, yeah? And that can increase your abundance, can increase your wealth, can increase your sense of meaning in life, can increase your sense of self-worth. You see the gist, yeah? The house will give you the where, but the planet will be the same. That Jupiter will be the same, and the Taurus will be the same. We're just going to kind of adapt. And you do the same with the rest of your chart. If you have a Mars in Taurus, that's definitely amplifying the Mars principle in your chart, so you can work in old anger issues of the family or the generational trauma of people that didn't say no, that just harbored anger in a very indirect way, passive aggression. You know, you can work with that. Yeah? Astrology detective work. Let me tell you. Now, we move on to Gemini. And again, it will make a difference if it's early Gemini or if it's late Gemini. So if I put on minutes here, let me see. And if I go to early Gemini, the possibility is that we'll be crossing the threshold into your 12th house already. But mid to late Gemini, we have that Jupiter in the 11th house, right? So Jupiter in the 11th house, well, that would be expansion with groups, right? Groups, community. I mean, the Gemini rising has a tendency to come out into the world asking questions, being curious. Well, that Jupiter in the 11th will bring you a lot of interesting people, potentially. Now, if you just stay home, that's not going to happen. People are not going to like ring your bell and, you know, and show themselves to you. But if you go out, if you dare going out, if you dare doing a retreat at some kind of community or going for an eco village and doing some work there because you're interested, or anything that has to do with like-mindedness, groups of people that believe in something that you believe in as well, group of people that value Taurus, the same things that you do. and getting that sense of validation, learning a lot through group work. You know, that's another one. That's a big one there as well with that Jupiter in the 11th. There's a lot of opportunities in group situations, group therapy. You know, if you're interested in therapy, you're a Gemini rising with a lot of things in your 8th house, and you got a moon in Scorpio, and you're interested in, well, group therapy could take you out of your comfort zone. It could teach you something else. It could show you something different. It could also be charity work, but not charity from behind the scenes, but actual, you know, actual jobs in charity and things that will be helping the world be a better place. There is a sense of growth and expansion there. It could be you writing projects about, you know, ecology and something that's 11th house connected. But definitely group work would be under the spotlight as being at the right place at the right time. So all of you, for each one of the signs in the houses, keep in mind the right place, the right time, because that's what Jupiter stands for. And being in a group situation will be the right place at the right time for you, Gemini rising, having that Jupiter transition year 11. Yeah. So let's go to Cancer rising. So early Cancer rising might be having that Jupiter moving into the 11th, but mostly Cancer rising will be having Jupiter in the 10th. So Jupiter in the 10th house. I mean, it might be activating your ascendant descendant as well, but a trine and a sextile, showing that relationships are kind of improved somehow by a 10th house matter. Now, 10th house will be your vocation, your role in society. What are you doing out there? Yeah. So there's definitely there a sense of of working on your mission out there in the world. So if you're unsure, if you're trying to find it, well, that could be a time when you can find clarity there. That could also be the time when you work on expectations from your mother. That's psychological astrology, considering 10th house connected with the mother. So it could be letting go of those considerations. It could also be improvements in your relationship with your mother as well, but definitely embracing something of Jupiterian quality in your work. So teaching, expanding somehow your role, having a promotion with that Jupiter there, expanding, traveling because of your work, because of your career, or embracing that, or, you know, studying something new that will reflect on that. And again, I know that 10th isn't really studying, but it's got to do with expanding your role in your vocation. Yeah. Gaining some kind of clarity on your life path. I think the 10th house in midheaven has that sense of direction in life. What do you want to do in the world? Well, that Jupiter can give you a little hand there on knowing, or discovering another layer to it, or being recognized for it as well. Having an opportunity to be recognized, having an opportunity to make good connections there in your, you know, career scenario as well. Yeah. So that's the Cancer rising. You can see I'm moving. That's Jupiter in the 10th there. And let's have a look at Leo rising. Now, Leo rising, yeah, you have potentially, you will have a midheaven in Taurus. Now, that's the Jupiter crossing the midheaven, and that's something that's very, very relevant. Again, I just said before, and maybe you've skipped all the way to this bit, but whenever a planet is crossing one of the angles in your chart, that's going to be super relevant. You're going to feel that very strongly. Maybe you're going to have a teacher that will show up in your work, in your job, you know, that a boss that will be like fabulous in terms of expanding your role. You're going to be given an opportunity of some kind. There's something there that you can take into account. Something about getting closer to the kind of role that you actually want to have in the world. You know, expanding, abundance, meaning, finding meaning in what you do. Learning something, a sense of protection in that area of your life as well. There's something there quite important. I think I had Jupiter on my midheaven when I went to my first astrology conference. And it didn't happen, like I didn't become an authority or I didn't get a job, but it was so clear that that was the right path for me. It was so exciting to have so many lectures and to have people talking about astrology the whole time. It was so amazing. And it was a confirmation of what I wanted to do with my life. Right? So there's something of that kind of quality there for you. And also mostly Jupiter will be transiting your 9th house. Now, Jupiter in the 9th house is a classic for traveling abroad. All the things that we talked about in terms of expansion can take an actual matter of fact, sort of thing there with the Jupiter in the 9th. So it can be traveling, moving abroad, for some reason getting an opportunity to be abroad and to live there for a little while, or to take a gap year and to go there for a couple of months, a few months. But it could also be higher education, doing research, doing your graduation, stepping into that area that is already naturally very Jupiterian. It talks about the sense of expansion and something that's got to do with your values. Every single house there will have something to do with the meanings that you give to the things that you value in connection to that house. All right. So definitely have something to do there. Opportunities connected with learning something new, dealing with people, foreigners, another one, relating with foreigners, meeting foreigners, all of that will be reflected by that Jupiter in the 9th. Okay. So let's move on. Unless you see Jupiter traveling around in the 9th house. Let's move on to Virgo rising. And Virgo rising will have Jupiter transiting the 8th house. Now, again, it might be, beginning to transition between the 8th to the 9th house, but is mostly the 8th house for Virgo rising there. So Jupiter in the 8th, brilliant time for therapy, brilliant time to, in a similar fashion to the 12th, there is something about learning from your psychology there with the Jupiter transiting your 8th. It could also be your astrological studies, your psychic abilities development, or, the things that you're curious about that has to do with that sort of mysterious, that mysterious area of life that Jupiter in the 8th is representing as well, that you can find more meaning in studying the occult, or psychology, or anything that has to do with that. Healing traumas is another one that's possible. Healing traumas around self-worth, again bringing that Taurus, or around money and how you deal with money and what you believe. You could be an inheritance. It could be some, money just coming to your hands as well, literally, with the Jupiter in the 8th. And it could be improving intimacy in relationships. That Jupiter is trine your ascendant at some point from the 8th house. So, improving your intimate life, improving your sex life, 8th house. Yeah. It's another possibility there, So let's move on. Let's move on to, I'll put hours here again. So let's move on to Libra rising. So Libra rising, again, very, very early degrees of Libra rising will be popping into the 8th, but most of Libra rising will have Jupiter in the 7th house. That's definitely improving relationships, improving partnerships, relationships, finding partners to work with that share values with you, learning from partnerships as well. Again, that Jupiter will have crossed your descendant at some point. Someone of a Jupiterian quality may have entered your life. Someone from a different background, someone from another culture, someone from another state in your country, someone that will show you a new perspective in life. That's the Jupiter in the 7th. It could be someone or a relationship that helps you heal the self-worth issues, or a partnership that helps you make money as well, Jupiter and Taurus. But there's definitely a sense of improving and expanding everything that has to do with partnerships one-to-one. Now you're a Libra rising. That's extremely important to you, right? The seventh house matters, you know, learning through another, growing through another, feeling optimistic about partnerships as well. Overindulging in partnerships. I mean, when I had the Jupiter in the seventh in Gemini, there was a sense of overindulgence there in terms of meeting new people and, you know, which is a little bit too much. So maybe be aware of that as well. But it really depends what phase you are, isn't it? Your life phase. So if you are married, then that could be a great time to travel with your partner. Do something Jupiterian with your partner. Yeah. Create a workshop with a working partner. Jupiter is about teaching, so you can bring that in. There's something about that sense of generosity, abundance, faith that could come through another person, in your case, with a Jupiter rising. A Scorpio rising, I mean, a very, very early Scorpio rising, we'll be having that Jupiter right on the descendant. And again, crossing an angle, very relevant. You're probably meeting someone. You're probably meeting a person that carries that Jupiter, that carries that Taurus. It's also people teaching you about how to be more placid and more peaceful. You know, the Scorpio rising tends to come out into the world creating crisis, creating destruction, you know, reconstructing everything after. But like, there is this sense of crisis, right, with the Scorpio. So the Jupiter in Taurus and crossing the descendant, especially people teaching you about how to build out of the opposite, how to be peaceful for once, Scorpio risings. But mostly you will be having Jupiter in the sixth house. Now, Jupiter in the sixth house is definitely connected with a sense of improving your daily life, improving your daily routine, expanding your daily routine, changing your diet. Now, again, remember the Jupiter can be connected with excess as well. So you could be overeating. You could be doing some excessive drinking or something, you know, with the Jupiter there in the sixth. But the best of that Jupiter is change your diet if you will, if you must, if you really feel that this is, you know, the first time Jupiter transited my sixth, I improved my diet a lot and I started doing yoga. I got this really nice yoga book that was also had the doshas and also had like recipes, like healthy recipes. Now, obviously, I'm a Virgo as well, so I kind of have a natural interest in all of that. But that Jupiter in the sixth really represented that for me. Really took that sort of manifestation in my life. Now, Jupiter is in my sixth again now. And what that is connected is with work, daily work this time. There is a lot more demand for my work. I'm organizing my, you know, my diary, my systems, how I do this, how I do that, how am I going to publish this, how am I going to, you know, what sort of systems in my daily routine are supportive of that work as well, in a sort of holistic manner. It's a very holistic house, I think, the sixth house. So Jupiter there is giving opportunities in that regard as well. Yeah. Improve your work life, improve your work house, like home life. Opportunities at work as well. Opportunities with co-workers as well. People offering you things, you know. I could definitely be connected with that Jupiter in the sixth. Now, early Sag risings might be having Jupiter at the end of their fifth, moving to the sixth, and then, you know, watch the video for the previous, if you're skipping all of it, watch the previous one. But most of the Sagittarian risings will have, oh, just moved a bit too fast. Most of the Sagittarian risings will have Jupiter in the fifth. Now, that is the house of children, so it could be connected with procreation, literally, and like, you know, having a child, getting pregnant, fertility, you know, being extra fertile, etc. But it can also be being extra fertile with your creativity in itself, creating things, writing novels, painting pictures, playing instruments, you know, all of that type of stuff can be connected with your fifth. It could also be embracing a hobby. Now that's very important to you as well, because you are a Sag rising. So Jupiter is the ruler of your ascendant. So Jupiter transits might affect you a little bit more, maybe. So that's a great opportunity there for you to have more fun as well, a little bit, if it fits, if it makes sense. You know, but it could definitely be a sense of enjoyment, joy, jovial. That's the Leo house, which also talks about joy. So I think it's a double joy and sort of joviality there. And it could be learning to make things that are practical, but also fun to make. Pottery. I see Taurus connected with pottery very much. Beautiful pottery for you to drink your coffee from. Or it could be gardening as well. That's another one that I see Jupiter and Taurus there. Jupiter and Taurus definitely will strengthen our connection with nature potentially as well, and finding value in spending time in nature. But for you, Sag rising, will have that sense of fun. Go dancing as well. Learn how to dance. Think about the things that you wanted to do and you haven't done it yet. This is a great time for you to do it, to embrace it. Because that would be you being in the right place at the right time. So you could meet something, you know, someone that might be telling you something, that might be teaching you something, that might have an impact at your work. If you have a midheaven in Virgo, we never know. So that's the Sag rising. Now, Capricorn rising might be on the transition between the 4th and the 5th, but mainly will be in the 4th house, and it will be all about expanding your home situation, right? Your house, making your house a better place, making your house a more beautiful place. Taurus is ruled by Venus. So beauty, beautifying places, bringing more beauty into your house, bringing more plants into your house, gardening, you know, creating a garden in your house as well, something like that. It could be improving your relationships as well, because it would be forming a trine to your ascendant and a sextile to your descendant eventually. So you spending more time at home could bring a sense of harmony there in relationships a little bit more. That's also another one that I see there. And then Aquarius rising. So Aquarius rising could be having Jupiter crossing over the IC at some point there. And that's, you know, I was just mentioning Jupiter going on my IC when I got a flat. It was like literal expansion of my home situation. So it could also be something like that for you. Eventually, you know, and if you have a 0 degree IC, or whenever that crosses your IC. But having Jupiter in the 3rd house, many new ideas. Your mind might be like really asking for some stimulation of some kind. Short courses. If 9th house is about higher education, the 3rd house is about short courses. It's about really learning something new, doing a week or 2 months course or 3 months course, and really learning some new things there for you that you can use somehow, that you can apply somewhere. Or, you know, creative writing, that's another one with the 3rd house as well, potentially, you know, because 3rd house is about writing. It could be anything connected with expanding your communication as well. So if there are issues connected with communication, that's a time when you can learn a lot as well from it. Moving to a better neighborhood, that's the 3rd house. Improving your relationship, you're going to travel with your siblings, that's the 3rd house thing as well. But really talking about and thinking about your values with the Jupiter in the 3rd house. Expanding that sense, writing a lot more. I wrote so much when I had Jupiter in my 3rd house, which is when I was doing the MA. Or when I enrolled in the MA. So Pisces rising. And for Pisces rising, again, like if we're talking about, let me move to minutes, because then we can do that. So the early Pisces might be between the transition there. And it's the same with the early Aquarius, okay? That you might be in the transition between the 3rd to the 4th. The early Pisces might be transitioning from the 2nd to the 3rd. But most Pisces rising will have Jupiter in the second house there. And I mean, the second house is a Taurian house, is a double whammy, isn't it? It's a Jupiter and Taurus in the second house of natural house of Taurus. And definitely for me, that Jupiter in the second is talking about your values. As a matter of fact, how do you deal with your values or your valuables, your material life, the material world, your money? Do you invest your money? Like, what do you do with your money? How do you make your money? Expanding your ability to make money. That's another one. You know, the second house is what we can exchange for money as well. These are the valuables that we have to make money. So it could be you making more money there because you're more aware of what you have to exchange in terms of money. But it's really important for you, Pisces rising, to be very aware of your values there and to be really connected with your values. Your opportunities will be connected with that sense of truthfulness, Jupiter, to your values, Taurus, in the second house. So yes, it could be a potential money coming towards you, but it has to be in a kind of a Jupiter fashion, something that's meaningful way to make money. Yeah. It could also be improving your relationships because that Jupiter will trine the descendant. So it could be new partnerships as well that would have a connection with that money or the values. It could also be self-worth, learning to value yourself and value your body, you know, and all of that. That's also connected with the second house. So this is it. This is the journey with Jupiter transiting through the houses to begin with Jupiter in early degrees. I will be talking more about this transit of Jupiter, but it will last for a year. It will have that period of retrogradation there, which you can rethink about the persons in these houses, you know, and all the things that we talked about during this video. But this is just to give you an idea. And if you are a person that's interested in like rituals and, you know, and stepping into something with the right foot, knowing what house this transition between Aries to Taurus is happening can really help you to set an intention there for you to really create, you know, create a vision board. I mean, vision boards are very Jupiterian as well. Like having this, you know, picture of all the things that you really want to manifest, that you really want to have in your life, the things that you really value in your life as well. So knowing what house that Jupiter is, then that's where is the right place and the right time for you. So you can create a vision board that takes that into consideration. All right. So I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you make the most of this Jupiter and Taurus, and we're gonna have time enough to, you know, exchange and to know how that's going. Let me know in the comments, what house are you gonna have this Jupiter transit? If you do have any planets that will be transited by this Jupiter and Taurus, do you have anything in Taurus? You know, how's that? How do you expect that to come out? And I'll be seeing you all on Friday. So next Friday, I will be giving, you know, more guidances about navigating the astrology of the week, as I usually do. And also write down in the comments if you have anything that you'd like me to talk about. Next week, I think I'll be talking about Pluto and Pluto in the houses. But let me know what you would rather see me talking about as well. And I'll be very open. I'm very responsive. I always respond to the comments, and I love the interaction, you know, the human real interaction. So write down in the comments and I'll definitely get back to you. All right. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week, a wonderful Jupiter and Taurus week. And I'll be seeing you all on Friday. Bye.